just want to ask you real quick. I know you just talked about the potential TV deal for Ring of Honor and obviously the success of tonight. But do you see down the line, from a future standpoint, Ring of Honor being full developmental for AEW or
no,
brand?
No,
Okay.
Please. No, I'm sorry. And I didn't mean to just like knee-jerk, but like that's one of the reasons why I purchased Ring of Honor as my own acquisition. It happened very quickly. It was I had an opportunity and had to make a decision that day, take it or leave it, or it's going to sell to the other obvious person that it would sell to. And I thought for many reasons it was the right move, and it's worked out so great. It's a business move for everyone involved. I don't see Ring of Honor as developmental for AEW at all. I see AEW Dark as developmental for AEW. Now, there has been some involvement from some of the Ring of Honor wrestlers if you follow it closely, but also a lot of the young AEW wrestlers have come along on AEW Dark. Look at some of the top acts in AEW, and I've seen, pardon me, because I've said this in scrums before, but like I'll give you examples, okay? A lot of this in the pandemic, we were already using it as that to some extent before we got into the Dark era, but then when we were able to tape it in the studio in the empty building, I could just stay as much as we wanted because there was no audience. We weren't running anybody down. It was empty, no audience. We started taping 14, 15, 16 dark matches and bringing in independent wrestlers, anybody who could travel into America safely. And also a lot of people, they weren't able to make a living either in their day jobs or particularly in pro wrestling because there wasn't really anybody else running. And we ran these shows safely. We had no known COVID transmissions. We did bring the fans back in the 25% seating capacity. But AEW Dark has been developmental, and there were acts. For example, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens were separate wrestlers on Dark, and now I was in a position where I liked them both, and I forced my hand. A lot of people who work here now, including their trainer Pat Buck, who's an executive at AEW now and a great coach. He was their coach. He coached them in pro wrestling, and he was working in WWE, and their coach is telling them your own coach, the person who trained you to wrestle, both of them as individuals, is recruiting them. And what's pretty cool is I was able to talk them both into coming because I had plans for them. They'd never tag teamed before, but I really believed that they both are special. And I asked them to give us this opportunity. And if it doesn't work out, just stay tonight, do this match together, see it, let's get a feel for this. I really like you. I'm looking you both in the eye, Max and Anthony. I'd also only seen Max Anthony had sent in a tape for the Search for Spears. And it was in 2020, early pandemic, and he looked great. It was like, this guy. And he came in and worked on Dark. And then Max, coming out of Creative Pro, I'd seen Max rapping on Twitter, like in his home, I think, in his home studio, but he'd never done it as the entrance. And I really believe there was something there to a tag team, the Acclaim. The Acclaim's a name that I just thought would be a cool name for a team forever. And one was actually when Chris and I were kicking around ideas. Well, his first thing was the Fist, and I was like, I'm not sure about that, Chris. And then my first thing was the Acclaimed, and I think we ended up settling on the Inner Circle, which was I think Chris. So the Acclaim's a great example. Powerhouse Hobbs has worked his way up. He worked on Dark, and then he got an opportunity on AEW Dynamite based on the hard work he did on AEW Dark. I was looking for a good opponent for Darby Allin in the summer of 2020, and it was him. And I was the coach on the match, and I got to work with Will Hobbs firsthand. And what a first-class person. Then you have Red Velvet, who was really, I think, wrestling her and she's been in some of the biggest matches. She was the main event of the first ever AEW Rampage, Red Velvet, and an important wrestler in AEW. She's, big matches, including in the match with Cody and Red Velvet versus Jade and Shaq, which was a huge match for AEW. And so we really believe in her, really trust her. And she's only gotten better. It sucks that she's been out injured. She's a great example of somebody who came in, was not the spotlight person on AEW Dark, but we took notice of her and then the opportunities, and then she started to get chances on Dark and then started to win some matches and put something together. So those are just some examples, the Acclaimed, Hobbs, and Red Velvet that I could think of, but there's been more in recent years. Wheeler Yuta in both AEW and Ring of Honor has really come along. He's on AEW Dark, like he said. We brought him in for the tapings, also his rival before AEW, before tonight, he's had great matches with Daniel Garcia. And, both of them worked really hard on Dark to get to the positions they got in on TV. And honestly, different paths to get here. Garcia, I don't know why, but when 2.0, formerly known, other names, at the time, Matt and Jeff of Daddy Magic and Cool Head Names, when they became free, really great TV wrestlers, great reputation. I thought they'd be great veterans to put with Garcia, do something different. And I think the presentation was really cool. And those things when you see it, you had an idea and then you see it come to life and instantly you hit a home run. I didn't tell them they were going to be paired up or anything. I just had the idea to put Garcia 2.0 together. And I called them, they'd been 3.0 and obviously they had been called Everrise before, in wrestling for another company. And so with 2.0, it's an old name, but also I didn't want people to think Garcia was part of the tag team because he's his own singles wrestler, but so it was 2.0 and Garcia because I think it was 3.0. People might have thought it was a 3-person tag team, which it wasn't. But they all showed up and they were all wearing, if you look at the first appearance, they were all wearing black with red trim. And it was like, obviously 2.0 matching gear as a tag team, but Garcia, his stuff matched theirs. And it was like, oh, this is fate. And from the beginning, they'd done so well together. They kept coming along. And then for Wheeler Yuta, how far he's come. And so it was pretty cool to have, I have to say, FTR have the 2 out of 3 falls match tonight and retain the championship in the same place where they retained against the Young Bucks in their first defense in Boston, because it was in the area. It was a different building, and I know it's not the city, right in the city, but I know we're within the state and close enough to the geographical area where I think it's some of the same fans that saw FTR versus the Bucks in FTR's first defense of the championship. And then, of course, since then at Forbidden Door, they picked up more hardware, more gold, become the IWGP World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. And now coming back here, it was really cool at FTR to retain against the Briscoes in a 2 out of 3 falls match and prove something here. But also very cool to come up here. Wheeler Yuta, I don't think we talked about this yet. Really, the night Wheeler Yuta, in my opinion, became a national TV wrestling star and pulled the best number we've done for Rampage all year, and I think for a tape show, it might be the best number we've ever done, was a Boston show with Wheeler Yuta versus John Moxley. So for Wheeler Yuta to come back to Massachusetts, the Boston area, and pick up a win, and to me, kind of what I saw as a career-defining performance in many ways at this stage of his career to retain the championship against his rival, and it'll be, I believe, the first of many career-defining performances, but to have 2 of those in the same year on Rampage, Moxley versus Yuta 3, and also tonight here in the same state, the same market against Daniel Garcia, who's somebody who just has an amazing rivalry with before AEW and now also Ring of Honor and AEW. So it's really special, and the rivalry between sports entertainment and Jericho and his people and pro wrestling continues. And so now it's going to go back to AEW this week. And I'm very excited about Claudio being the new world champion, very excited about Yuta being the new pure champion. Of course, FTR retaining here. Really special for FTR and Yuta here again, back where we were in Boston. But also I have to say, I wasn't sure what to expect when I took over Ring of Honor and when we got into this. And the excitement of the fans and people I'd never worked with before, because there's so many people here at Ring of Honor that we've retained and brought in when the transition, people that I tried to make it as authentic an experience, including bringing on a good amount of the Ring of Honor people that were working there before the transition and before the transaction. So I didn't know a lot of these people, so it's almost like it's a hybrid of the teams, because there's people from AEW here, but there's a ton of people I'd never worked with before Supercard, and getting to know them on the build up to Supercard, and then our first show together, and now our second show together. It's really coming together, and it's a new experience. It's different than the start of AEW, but it feels like the start of something new, but the beginning of another cool journey. So thanks for asking.